Now we're on Instagram. We're on the gram, as it were, as it is.
Is that a graham cracker?
All right, coming up.
That's a good
5
cracker.
seconds.
Thank you.
That's got to be a Ritz.
And
here we go.
Is that a Ritz cracker?
Hi, chat
Ladies
room.
and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the show, everybody. So much to talk about today, and some big guests coming as well. Philip Ittner was not available on Wednesday. He's going to be here for the second hour, and then, of course, our buddy Boston Bryant's going to come in halfway through this hour and visit with us a little bit. He's from the Midas Touch Network, and he's been on top of so many of these issues. And I think it's there's a lot. There'll be too much to cover, just too much show. But meanwhile, it's me and it's Johnny Million. And how are you this fine morning, Johnny Million?
I'm doing good. My band Mars, Venus, Moon is going to record right after this, so I'm very excited.
Very exciting. I just so you know, I was messing around with AI music yesterday because it was a point of conversation with our dear friend
It's the
Rob
beginning of the end.
It is. Well, here's the thing. I have been struggling to find a way to use AI in my life at all because I'm a creative person. I don't need it to be creative on my behalf. I understand why marketing people are like, write me some sort of dumb copy for this terrible product I don't use.
Yeah,
right?
every time I see an AI option, it's like, oh, click this AI. It'll make it longer. And I'm like, it just put a bunch of word vomit in there. I can do that.
Yeah, exactly. It'll save you a word vomit time. But if you actually care, like if you write jokes or notes, it's not really useful unless you're writing something you don't care about. Or in my case, if you're doing like song parodies or something, and I need a backing track for a song parody, and I don't want to use something that's already used, and I don't want to, and I want something to sound professional, but I don't want to spend all day writing, the background to a rap song or something that I'm not going to have any purpose for other than the jokage. But I was messing around yesterday in this, and I think you'll be able to hear this one the best. Yeah, this one here.
You are watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, and we're glad you're along for the ride.
Look out.
Every day Hal is here by your side.
Come on.
That's pretty adorable.
Now, I wrote the lyrics myself, and so that's what made it kind of functional. You know what I mean? I made that little...
It sounded a little bit like those were all euphemisms for your junk.
I think that's just projection on your part. I think you're just in recording mode for this afternoon for your band.
My wheezy laugh.
That happens.
Holy moly, Hal Vickery. Coming in strong.
Thank you, Hal Vickery, for the super chats. Bless you. There he is. Look at that.
He evidently would rather give you a super chat than spend $60 on a Trump Bible.
Right.
$60.
Why?
Read the room.
But I mean, how do you not comfortable spending $60 of which Donald Trump gets a 20% licensing fee? That's his part in it, because it's really the Lee Greenwood Bible, right? And he gets a 20% licensing fee for just endorsing it, kind of. And it's.
I see.
I mean, is there anything more Trump than taking a public domain book and slapping your name on it?
No, I'm kind of wishing I thought of it.
Right, yeah. The Hal Sparks Bible will be out any day now. I will not. I'm a terrible businessman, so I will not be selling it. I will be giving it away, which is, I think, the point of a Bible. I think.
Can you hear Flora?
Flora knows. She knows. She's got the Flora Bible.
She woke up from her post-breakfast nap and is like, it's about me!
Right. So cats are like their owners. So the... Hey, what I did there? It was good stuff. So, anyways, hit that like and subscribe, as the lady sang in this situation, because we're all hustling every day. I'm muscling, shuffling something, and I got to tell you, if you want,
in the other room doing everything she can to get Flora out of the office.
Oh, that's very sweet. I saw
everything like.
Yeah, right. Sorry, cat noises. Sorry. Yeah, right. Anything, right. It's working like gangbusters.
I almost called her back.
Yeah, right. Oh no, you're right. Shh. Whatever you do, don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I hear her in the background. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
In the bedroom right now.
It's a Catterday thing because Chud came in while I was rushing around this morning, and she was underneath the desk rubbing her cheeks on everything like, this is mine now. This is mine now. And I'm like racing around, and I almost stepped on her because I'm like in a hurry, and I'm like, okay, Chud, wait, you gotta go. And I scoop her up and move her to the door, and she just like, all right, the heck with you. I'll bother you later. And she just wanders off.
Is Chud still a little fragile, or is she hanging in there?
She's hanging in there and fragile. She's 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 got arthritis in her front paws, and so she looks like she's wearing clown shoes. Oh. Her paws are like really far out from her, like they thump down. But we got her little stairs. Summer and I are that couple now. We got her stairs for the couch.
And you've arrived.
She only uses them going up, which is kind of not the point. Like,
and then she comes crashing down on her front paws when she jumps down.
She jumps down and then she walks up. We're trying. I'm working on it. We're coaxing her with treats and like, it's over here,
And you're can you crawl down the stairs yourself to show her?
No, they're too small. No. They're not. Yeah, but also if you move them, right, so you put them in the way that she normally jumps down, she'll go over to where they're supposed to be when she's going back up, look confused, and then jump up on the couch and be exhausted. So you can't.
Well, people in the chat say that their pets do the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's so funny.
They jump down even though they've got loose stairs.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. Yeah. So, right out of the gate, let me, the jobs number stuff came out yesterday, and I think it was one of the funniest Maria Bartiromo reactions we've seen in a long time. I feel like there should be like a supercut of the last, I don't know, was it 36 months? Yeah. I put a, let's see if I can open this article up too. This is the 39th straight month of job growth. Joe Biden has presided over the 39th straight month of job growth. 303,000 jobs added in March. February revised down 5, but January was revised up 27 or something, so that it zeroed out at 22,000 jobs. Okay. It was added in during more than they thought initially, and then 303,000. The expectation, which I always find this interesting, the expectation numbers are for people who it's almost for like the people who gamble on Wall Street as opposed to the people who actually care about how things are going to turn out. They're like, oh, I bet you it's going to be. It's the crop yields versus the frost report on that the Dukes were trying to get an edge on. If you know that frozen concentrated orange juice, this crop is going to be, right? That's what they did. They shorted the crop.
Said the Dukes.
Yeah.
My brain did two things. First, I was like, I thought about the Duke brothers, but from the Dukes of Hazzard.
The Duke boys, sure.
The Duke boys. And then I thought, oh no, he means the Koch or the Koch brothers. And then I was like, no, wait, the Dukes from Trading Places. So
right.
That was my brain went all the way around.
Well, you know why? Because that's actually, we saw. That Dukes. Right. Yeah. I'm going to kill you. Yeah. Turn those machines back on. So they fixed they wanted to get a look at the crop report before it was announced so they could get in there early, buy a bunch of stuff because there wasn't going to be a lot of it, and then they would sell it at a very high number. And so it was the exact opposite. They found out what it was, and they did the opposite. They just played the Dukes the other direction was the idea. And let me explain something about the Dukes in particular in that storyline. They don't care about how much orange juice ends up in the bellies of Americans or whether the crop yields are good or whether there's a good way to develop better crops that are more resilient to frost or anything. They don't care about any of that stuff. These guys, as characters, were scraping money off the top of industries without actually contributing anything to it. Right? That's the point. These guys got rich doing nothing, essentially in that regard. I mean, it's definitely a skill. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the whole thing about George Soros and probably why he's on this great apology tour where everybody thinks he's this super liberal guy and very progressive and all this stuff, when in reality, he almost tanked the entire UK economy by effect. I think he was shorting the pound, and he knew it, and he was scraping money out of there. He became a billionaire doing it, basically, intentionally setting up the pound to fail. So not a nice person.
No.
Right. And even if he gives $1 billion back trying to, polish his turd of an image over the course of his life, it's as far as the impact he probably had on British families during that time and the European economy, it's like Al Capone's orphanages at a certain point, right? So, and again,
I say that about so many things,
right? Well, it's
this reminds me of.
Yeah, well,
Al Capone's orphanages.
Right. Well, the idea is that somehow that, some people believe that made him a good person. You're like, nah, it sounds like cover to me. And he probably turned them into money laundering organizations. Like if Trump opened an orphanage.
One true crime podcast where this one of the guys is very Italian, and he always jokes about how the mafia always did stuff for the kids. Do it for St. Jude's. Do it for the kids.
Well, as cover, right? Because you got to do that.
Yep.
It's the same reason why Epstein and Sean Combs and all these guys hang around.
Ron Epstein?
Yeah, yes. Epstein's mother, the whole gang, they're terrible. She would excuse anything. Anyways, but the idea is that these guys, will mix with people that are completely innocent, that they're just using as cover, and they're business partners, and they're on a level that you can't tell the difference. I don't know that, the supermodels that Epstein had on his planes were engaged in the same criminality, or Chris Tucker or somebody like that Trump, who obviously partied with him, was, right? So anyways, we got to take a break. I want to come back though and talk about how the economy, some of the quotes about the economy, I'm enjoying as a Democrat and as a Biden voter, a proud Biden voter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm enjoying the whinging, cringing, trying to make their way through it, just apologizing for good news tone of the economics news people when they're trying to point out the fact that Democrats basically are better for the economy. We'll be back right after this. So, my
volume evidently needs to come up.
Okay, excellent. Okay, let's see. Check for me.
Check 1 2. Checking 1 2.
There you go. Okay.
Check 1 2.
That seems better.
Some better, gang. So no Phil today, right?
No, Phil is going to be on. Yeah, he'll be on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Boston Brian's going to be with us at the half hour. He's going to come in halfway through this hour. And then Phil's going to be on hour 2. He wasn't on.
Sorry, chat. I told you wrong.
Yeah, no. A bit loud now, Johnny. All right.
Oh, no, I'm too loud for chat.
I got
Thanks.
it. I got it. Yeah. Let's try this.
Did they really say no? It's too loud.
Yeah, it's okay. We're good. You'll be fine.
Thanks. All right. Hal Vickery said it's too loud. He actually has a personal stake.
He's taking this. Yeah, he didn't pay to have his ears blown out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Someone in chat said Johnny doesn't like Phil. Oh no, I love Phil.
Yeah.
He doesn't like me because as soon as he shows up, I immediately turn into his little brother.
Right. Yeah.
And I say out loud all the things he would like me to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Like he evidently drinks a milkshake right before he comes on every single time.
Why? So he can cough, you mean? Is that what you mean?
So he can...
Thank you.
Got to have your dairy before you broadcast.
I did.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. The jobs numbers. Let's see. He's gonna get you. Yes. Okay, we're good. So the jobs numbers are only part of the story because it's almost like we're getting used to it. It's become almost a monthly holiday where the jobs numbers come out and Fox Business tries to make it terrible. Just however they can do it. And you know how
there are entire accounts on Instagram that mock the Fox levels of denial, stages of grief, with every job number announcement.
Yeah, it's so telling about, because they're looking at the reality of this election season, not the early polls and all that kind of stuff, which again, like Obama was in similar territory as Biden is right now, and at his point, and it didn't go anywhere near slowing down his reelection. Same thing. Trump is in way more hot water about this. But if and Johnny, I put it in the Notion, so we have it in there or whatever. If you look in the day, there are a couple of quotes from this Bloomberg article. One was from Bloomberg, and then I think one's from the other from I want to say Market Watch, something like that. Like these guys that I used to never read. I used to never read papers like this because why? I'm a comedian. This is not my gig. This is not what I, But now, I use it, multiple sources to check not just the Bureau of Labor Statistics and all that kind of stuff, but how they're talking about it, right? So if you'll notice, I don't know if you see it in there, under
there, billionaire who floated Trump's 175 million fraud.
Yeah, that's after. Scroll down and read me under economy. Read me the first quote that's there. It's under the first article there. What does that quote say?
The vanishingly few areas to criticize this labor market are melting away, said Andrew Flowers, a chief labor economist at Appcast, a recruitment advertising firm.
Right. Yeah. This is not the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is not the Biden White House. This is not Karine Jean-Pierre. This is not his, ag secretary talking about non-farm payrolls. This is hiring companies who are looking at the jobs they are getting for people trying to get them, and the comparison of like the wages they used to be able to get them, the bennies they used to be able to get them, and the available workforce that's there, right? And this is like Appcast is one, is their headhunters for even like medium level jobs. Appcast is not one of these. It's like they go find CEOs for big companies, like because there are boutique agencies that will hunt you down a CEO that you have to give a golden parachute and a promise of $10 million, or they're never going to come out of retirement to run your company for you. But this is one of the ones that's like on the ground. These are blue collar and like really lower, like middle management, barely white collar jobs. You know what I mean? Like management executives at small firms and those kind of things. And they're like, yeah, this thing's headed in the right direction. I don't know what to tell you. Like and you can tell from the tone of that person that whoever was doing this article at Bloomberg called them up and was like, give me something, man. How am I supposed to crap on the president today if I throw me a bone? He's like, I got nothing, man. What ones that are there are going down. And that leads us to the second quote, which is from another one of these things. Inflation has fallen drastically from its peak of 7.1%, according to the Fed's preferred measure, but it ticked up in February to 2.5%. Still a half percentage point away from the Fed's target, and some worry that rising oil prices and geopolitical chaos could upend the delicate state of affairs. Now, rising oil prices, geopolitical chaos, totally out of the control of the president of the United States or even the citizenry of the United States in great part, right? There's no point where you and I can affect oil prices or the chaos in the world. None, I got to tell you, like even people marching against the Israel-Gaza conflict, even, people marching against Russia's influence, attempted to influence Europe and undermine their governments and attacking Ukraine. That's the best we can do. But we can't do anything direct about it. We can't pass a law that says, get out of there, right? That's not how it works. And the president, Biden has come the closest, right? Biden has come the closest to being able to do this. The sanctions are working. The ruble is crashing. Russia is having a really rough time. And even though we're lagging in giving this money to Ukraine, and we'll talk about that later, and pressure is apparently, when they're coming back after the Easter holiday, there's been this big pressure on Republicans to finally pass this, and they will. They will. They've got a 1-vote majority right now as of April 17th, I believe. They will have 1 vote that they can lose, and then it's a 50-50 tie in the House for any bill they bring to the floor. If they lose 2 votes on anything, the Democrats win on the vote as of April 17th. And by the way, if Matt Gaetz makes it to the election, I think we'll all be shocked. That's going to be one of the biggest pieces of news probably in July.
Are things going to finally stick?
Well, he's being deposed in his sexual assault case.
Nice.
While this ethics complaint is being, further.
Can you hear the kettle?
Yes. Is that you give the cat tea to keep her calm? Are you giving her?
Well, she puts to keep it safe. She puts the hot water on, or the water on to boil. There's a wood stove, and she goes and like starts the fire. She rubs her paws together really fast.
Oh, she's got like a little rescuers kind of house. Yeah.
Rescuers.
Right. She'll get those mice eventually. But anyways, so ultimately we're looking at Democrats controlling the House. Maybe I think that might even be our October surprise. I think that would probably be the most extraordinary political October surprise.
That would be so great. I have a real hard time with so many of the Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens.
Right.
But Matt Gaetz surviving this stuff makes me legit angry.
Right.
Because he is just a wretched, wretched human.
No, I do not get tired of being right all the time. Yeah, he's completely disgusting. And here's the thing. His fellow Republicans know it. There is somehow, whether it's in the world of, the awakening of rhinos, whatever you want to call it, the Republicans trying to seize back their party is immaterial. There are a bunch of them that know that not only are the Freedom Caucus like extremist nutcases who, want the impossible and have taken on the Young Turks methodology. If we don't get everything, nobody gets anything. And that is not a way to govern, right? They have pushed themselves as fighters, which is not what you do in a representative government. You are not fighting when you go back to your office and argue a point again and try to convince people. That is not fighting. You're not fighting for an issue. I would even say to my dear beloved activists out there, you're not fighting, you're marching. If you've gotten to the fighting part, you screwed up.
Things have gone horribly wrong.
Yes, you are. If you get to fighting, you're terrible at your job. You're not convincing, So Gaetz, particularly Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, we'll talk about. I'm sure, as someone who does not imbibe and has never taken any substances, which sets me apart not only from everyone on the panel today, I think, pretty much, but also from Matt Gaetz in particular. I don't understand how someone like Lauren Boebert could be grievously overserved at a Mar-a-Lago party, which apparently is the report. Did you hear that report, Johnny Million?
No.
Okay.
I think she has an issue.
Yeah, maybe. Now, here's the thing. She, at the Beetlejuice thing, she was vaping and groping and groping and vaping and vaping, groping and yelling and drinking and groping and
just being an amazing partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, all of that happening in a car, whatever. But when you're in a theater, on the aisle. She was apparently grievously overserved. Thank you, Carol Cobb. She was grievously overserved by at Mar-a-Lago. They thought so, and she was cut off from alcohol.
Oh wow!
And she was trying to take pictures with the president and being really pushy. She wanted multiple pictures with him. She was sloppy. My question is, it's Mar-a-Lago. Was she really grievously overserved, or should she just not watch her beverage?
Oh.
Yeah. I wouldn't rule that out. As much as I want to dunk on her for being a drunk and being that, or at a place like that, not surprised at all. If a woman suddenly can't stand up and she normally can hold her liquor and then there's a problem, I don't know. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is, whether I like you or not, if you're drunk in my presence, you're going to get home safely. That's how. Once you're past that point, and again, that's why we're the party that understands consent, and they're the people who think that Donald Trump is sent by God to have 27 sexual assault charges. So
wait, I see Boston Brian queued up. Are you angry, Boston Brian?
No, this is just his.
Okay, he's sleepy.
This is the wrong. No, he's just.
He's not
waiting.
sleepy either.
This is his Chuck Norris face. He doesn't sleep. He waits. All right, we'll be back right after this with more Johnny Million and Boston Brian. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I think I'm projecting. I'm sleepy and angry, Brian. I'm sorry.
Right.
No, I was looking at the screen here. I'm trying to figure out why it won't let me change my background.
I'll do it. You don't have to. Yeah, that's the thing. Hold on. Now, let me. Hopefully, this will not crash my crap because it's always.
I came in here early and it let me do it. It gave me an option to put one of my files in there, but for some reason it didn't do it this time.
Gotcha. Okay, hold on one second. I've got it.
So that was my concentration face, Johnny. That's
I like it. I know it well. When you're like, "What's wrong? What is happening?"
Some of the sound engineers in chat say that I'm overmodulating.
You're really loud.
Uh-oh.
I was watching you on TV.
You are
You're really loud.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. You're pretty loud yourself, Brian.
I meant it.
No, I mean, actually, literally right now, your signal is a little hot, but you've got 10 seconds.
I always have 10 seconds. It's always how it works. Hold on. I'll turn this. I'm going to do it live because if I try to do it behind the scenes.
We'll do it live.
It craps out.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right. I'm getting them in here right now. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us, the great, the heavily concentrated, the frozen concentrated orange juice of human beings. I'm gonna green screen him out while we're doing this. Boston Brian, how are you, brother? Good to talk to you this morning. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Yeah.
No, I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there. Like I said, I was concentrating, trying to figure out I'm not good at the behind the scenes stuff yet, like you.
Right. Well, yeah, you get kind of permanent guest mode. It happens where you're like, that's what's happened to me over the years, is that I gotta eventually, hold on, I'm gonna color correct Boston Brian.
Yeah, we don't see you anymore on the ninja thing, but it's okay. Everything looks fine on YouTube.
I see him, but you guys don't, so that's fine. Okay. I'm raising his saturation a little bit and changing his hue shift and.
Am I saturated?
No, you're unsaturated. So Boston Brian, there's obviously tons to talk about, not the least of which is the idea that, and we'll talk about this with Phil in the next hour, is it looks like pressure is finally mounting on Republicans to vote through the aid for Ukraine. That said, the jobs report, and there's this whole thing with the Biden campaign pulling in $90 million. Raising $90 million.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, right, which is an enormous amount of money.
We're in trouble. We're in some serious trouble because apparently, according to Maria Bartiromo, we've added too many jobs.
That's right. Yes.
We're going to have to start taking some of these jobs back.
Well, okay, so I explained to everybody, over the last, couple, 48 hours, why that is that, obviously she's in the crowd that knows that there is a balance between where the stock market makes you, as an index fund, makes you more than whatever the interest rate on borrowed money is. So let's say, for argument, it's 4% and it's even. It's if you put your money in the stock market, it will average out at 4%, and if you borrow money, it will average out at 4%. You'll have to pay 4%. So you can't borrow money and put it in the stock market, and it's just stasis, right? You won't make any money, and you're not doing anything, right? But if interest rates come down to 3% and the stock market's return is still 4%, you're making 1% on whatever money you can borrow, is the idea. You can take, and this is where, the people get leveraged and all that kind of stuff, and it gets really bad. But when it gets to be 7 and 12%, I mean, if you could just put it in NVIDIA stock, most people are convinced by the end of this year, that like Nvidia, the AI company, they make GPUs that are used for most of the AI in the world.
The fact that Trump stock was valued higher percentage-wise, like by
well, that's what I want to get to.
Is just insane.
So Nvidia's got he's got a $6 billion evaluation, and Nvidia's was like $4 billion, and the stock is $800 a share. Right, Nvidia. It's going to be $1,500 by the end of the year. His went from 67 to 42. I mean, we'll have to do a death watch on it today, but it's being kept afloat, obviously, by people who are just circumventing the campaign finance laws, because he's going to use his own money.
He might be in some trouble too for his posts, where he's touting how well it's doing and advocating for people to buy the stock. I mean, there's different laws and rules that apply when your company goes public than when you're just an average con man sitting in the background with your private company.
Certainly is. So and again, that's one of the big reasons why he never took his company public. That was a big part of that. Like, why would you? The scrutiny that goes into a public company is the part that makes everybody worry. There's, and that's also why he does all these LLCs, because you can do a lot of secretive stuff in a C corp or an S corp if you incorporate. But an LLC, you can maybe little bits, like some of your financing can be kept under a veil because you don't want your competitors to know where you're getting your money from, and they might circumvent you while you're trying to get your invention, your product, whatever, to market. You can do little things like that. But in an LLC, you can be straight up opaque. That's why it's the real estate. It's the real estate, model. And so
it's the go-to.
God knows, who owns Donald Trump's buildings for real. Nobody knows. I'm serious. It's not his money. It never was. And where in the world is he going to? So $90 million Biden raises. Trump's I think the RNC's at they have 3 million on hand or something stupid.
Well, Laura Trump was just on. I forget. I watched it on Rumble. I forget whose show it was. She was a guest, and she was touting expectations of something around 90. I think similar. I think she said around $96 million. And now I'm assuming that's where she's getting the figure but what she's not telling people is how much the RNC is pumping out, whether it's Trump's legal bills or just however ways they're wasting money over there in the RNC now. But that they're now trying. She was on, going around making the rounds, trying to tout how much money they're going to be making. And this figure was coming out, and it sounds like they're just trying to combat the number that sounds like the Biden campaign is due to make.
Right. Yeah. And ultimately, I got to say, I'm very excited for the idea that they're going to end up, that Trump's followers and his supporters are going to dump their money into this thing, because there is no better way to make it vanish. You know what I mean? Like, you give it to a campaign, even if he spends it on his legal fees to some degree, it goes to him, it goes to support him in some way. But if it goes into this company and the value lowers, that money is just gone. It's just
she was talking about how there's no more air in between the RNC and the Donald Trump campaign, and that she basically just came out and said whatever the RNC gets is basically in Donald Trump's pockets, free and fair for him to use as he chooses.
Right. Which again, I'm also for it.
Right. Less for other candidates, less for other campaign rallies. Right.
Right. They're supposed to get Republicans, elected to be the support structure. This is a guy who's apparently a builder and all this kind of stuff, but knows jack all about how foundations work. Right. What's going to be there?
Insane.
Yeah. It's crazy to go nuts. I got to tell you. Now, one of the things that's been the storylines lately is, oh dear, RFK. That RFK Jr. is somehow going to steal votes. A generalized opinion, chat room, I'm very interested. Both Johnny, Boston Brian, by the way, Boston Brian, follow him on all his socials. And of course, there's a lovely patreon.com/Boston Brian, just saying. Thoughts on, does RFK spoil for Trump or Biden more? Does he take
I'd say Trump.
Yeah.
I was going to say Trump too, and I think the Republicans know it too, because the interview you played with him on Hugh's show the other day, he asked straight up. He says that it more people were mad at his interview with Israel Shalom or Hayom than were on the right, which is just ridiculous. It was definitely the right, more people on the right that were mad at what he was saying. And again, they were asking him, they're basically all these interviews that he's doing now, they're asking him leading questions to try to steer him in a direction that is more palatable and more mainstream and more on the independent / conservative side, and they just cannot get him to do it.
No, he won't answer.
And they asked him the same question. It was do you think RFK hurts you more or Biden more? And he said he thinks it hurts Biden more, which means that it helps Trump more. So he doesn't even understand what he's saying to begin with. And when you got RFK coming out and saying that Biden is more of a threat to democracy than Donald Trump and, all the other ridiculousness of stuff that he said over the past, several months, it's easy to see that he's way more fit for Republicans and more apt to take Republican votes away from Donald Trump than he is to take Democratic votes away from Joe Biden.
Well, never mind the fact that, RFK has a history that would make Hunter Biden blush, for real. He talks about it just like Hunter does in his own memoir. And part of the whole environmental lawyer thing that his family helped him put together was a rehab tour that the Kennedys do for their progeny to make sure that they've been through this with Teddy and Chappaquiddick and all that kind of stuff. They are good at the cleanup machine, right? I'm serious. That's how that family works in that regard. And after Robert Sr. and John, and the stories that came out about them, they've been rehabbing their image for a long time. But ultimately, both of them decent guys trying to do decent things, especially Robert F. Kennedy, especially RFK Jr.'s father. And so, a lot of times you have this. Apple falls fairly far from the tree when it wants to go. And I'll give you an example. So remember that first of all, I personally think he's gonna take from Trump because he's running on an anti-vax. Right? He can back away from his idea that he's not anti-vax all he wants to, but that's just garbage. He's totally running on that idea. And the QAnons think that thought for a while that he was gonna be, Trump's running mate on that issue alone.
Even his arguments against Biden and his supposed censorship on social media go along with what Republicans feel and say and want to see happen. So it's not just it's not even just the one thing. I mean, it's several ways that he relates way more to conservatives and Republicans of today than Democrats. So you're right.
That's who he's courting. And in this particular instance, there's and by the way, there's some call about like choppy audio or something like that. It's fine on our end in that regard. So it might be just a little hot in what's happening. I'm going to, all you need to do is reload your page.
Some people say it's fine. Some people say refresh works fine.
Yeah, refreshing your page will do it. So RFK Jr., though, again, he's running on an anti-vax ticket, period, end of story. The dude, part of it, at a fundraiser in New York, sitting around, when they just let him talk, he starts blathering about how it's weird how COVID doesn't affect Chinese people and Ashkenazi Jews. And you're like, okay, dummy. First of all, there aren't that many Ashkenazi Jews in the world. And in specific areas, they've been any group that has had a target on their back for a long time kind of focuses on better health care when they can. Kind of avoids, the potentiality of, bio impacts and weapons and the like. But maybe a little wiser about it. Just enough to squeeze the percentage a little bit. And the other thing is that there is no way less than 20 million people died in China from COVID, period, end of story. The number is far higher. The idea that
there's another area I think they're screwing themselves on is talking about how many Chinese people are coming to this country. It's like, yeah, you want to know why is because we've done so much to not only decouple the United States from China, but we've done so much to, they've done so much to hurt their own economy that it just makes sense that people would be fleeing to better opportunities.
Options. Yeah, absolutely. And the number of the people that are doing it are people with resources because they're paying like $30K to cross the
and
border.
Those because it's a long trip that a lot of times the older people and
aren't going to make
people
it.
With disabilities aren't going to make.
Well, what I mean? China won't let them out.
They're all 19 to 25 people coming to look for work. I mean, of working it. Wow, it's so weird that people coming to look for work are of working age. I mean,
right? Yeah,
what a thought that is.
Right, that's what I always call them. Like they're always talking about military age men, and I call them roofing age men because that's exactly what most of them end up doing. How about bridge building age men? Because again, the people that were killed in the Baltimore Bridge were immigrants working in construction. Bless their hearts and their families. It's just heartbreaking. So when we come back, though, I find this year very simple, not just on the fact that I like what Biden's doing and I think he's a thoughtful human being. Even in difficult situations, he's making measured, smart approaches and helping us get closer to, the aspirational aspects of the United States and not farther away like Donald Trump is. But there's one particular detail that separates him from at least the other two men running, that I think stands out as a reason why, if you're just looking to check a box on one particular trait, this should solve the question for you. If you're looking for the way lesser of three evils in this case, one of them isn't even on the evil scale on one particularly. I'll tell you when we come back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. It's Johnny Million is his live stream show. It's on YouTube and Twitch. And then, of course, Boston Brian will be with us right after the break, too. So, Johnny, I put in the Notion this it's the Daily Beast article. Okay. Meet the Ghislaine Maxwell pals running a pro RFK Jr. pack.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. Like,
is the audio any better? Are they people still saying?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
I can't. Some people say you're still a little overmodulated, but I think it's fine.
Oh, I see. I know why you guys can't see me. Hold on. Beg your pardon. When I had to restart, there we go. Bing. There you guys are. Can you see me now?
Hi, buddy.
I
sure can.
Excellent. And yourself and everybody else. Excellent. Okay.
Now, can somebody please explain to me what overmodulated means?
It's like it's a sound like when you go way up on a microphone and it's like it's like if your mic is super hot, it'll sound like that no matter how far away you are from it.
Right.
I don't know. Sorry.
Is that what people are saying? You're...
The defeated look on his face.
I know. Boston Brian's
no, sorry.
Wait, I swear to God, you're the most huggable person in the world, Boston Brian. Every time I want to like, here, let me fix your wires for you. Come here, give me a hug. You're gonna be all right. This is good.
I don't want to be the one to mess up the clips and the show.
No, you're good. I got it. I'll if we hear something, I'll tinker and find it, and if I have to, I can.
And when all three of us are in the same room, we're gonna hug and make a little Boston Brian sandwich.
Oh no.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Excellent. Welcome back to the show. So there is one. Look, I have a reason for not voting for Marianne Williamson, and that reason is I know her personally. I think that should be reason enough for anybody, and you can judge her or me based on that thing. You're completely, if you go, if you know her and you still won't vote for her, that shows something wrong with you, and you want to vote that way, make that decision on your own. But if you have been listening to me at all for the last 3 years and seen the dozens of things I have been right about and that the rest of the news media has been late on, trust me. All right, that said, the chances of her actually getting on a ballot anywhere are zero, so it's not even a conversation. But RFK
I keep forgetting about her.
Right. All right. Well, she dropped out and then she jumped back in because she got she charted in one of the things. She came in just below and committed. Right. But
you never trust the chart.
No. Charts are chart. No. Especially when Trump calls a chart a map. You can call maps charts sometimes when you're on a boat, but it doesn't work the other way around. Like all maps are charts, not all charts are maps. It's like calling a graph a map. He did that on Hugh Hewitt show. He's a very silly human. And
the tapes. Stop releasing all those tapes.
All the tapes. Yeah, they're releasing. That's the problem with the IDF. They're releasing all these tapes.
The video tapes
of
on the
buildings
VHS
falling
the
down.
IDF from the CIA.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with the IDF. They're still using beta. So that said, there is one detail amongst the three gentlemen that are running for president this year that one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. And that's that Joe Biden has never shown up on any Epstein flight logs at all. Never been to an Epstein party. Never been videotaped taking a picture with the dude. Never hung with him. It's almost amazing considering what a gadfly Epstein was and how he tried to weasel his way into a bunch of these things, even trying to, like get pictures with Oprah and people like that. It's almost shocking that he did manage to do it. And it's only because
call that P. Diddying his way into something now.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. That's precise. Yeah. Some Diddy will be the version of it. That's some Diddy. So, yeah. So this is a very specific detail that is very odd about this election. That there are three men running, and two of them hung out with Jeffrey Epstein on the regular, came to his defense or touted him in previous articles. Not just, we're at a thing and got a picture. Not we're roaming by, but on the plane, lengths of time, trips across the country or trips across the ocean in his private jet, to his island, those kind of things.
I wish her well. We live together down at West Palm Beach.
Right. So that brings us to Ghislaine Maxwell, right? This is, Trump comes out and wishes her well. I did a song about it for Sexy Liberal Virtual Tour last year. I did a ballad, he wished her well. And she was, like some people use the word madam for her. But I having grown up a Dolly Parton fan, when I think of a madam, I think of the best little whorehouse in Texas. Right. I think of like, you know what I mean? Like a countrified brothel with a lady, like a frontier lady who's like,
that is what I order every time at Denny's, though, by the way. The countrified brothel.
Brothel. Yeah, it's I can't do it.
It's delicious.
Too much cheese. It's
the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, right. It is. It's got it. No, Cracker Barrel puts hollandaise sauce on it, which I think is a mistake.
I do like hearing Cracker Barrel in a Boston accent. Though,
it's Brian. Nice. Yeah.
I didn't know I needed to hear that.
I got Cracker Barrels up here.
It's the hard R versus the soft A. Don't worry.
It's the best.
Yeah. It's you get a pass. He's got it's unfair. It's unfair because Johnny and I both have what is a non-inflected Midwestern radio accent because we grew up in Winnetka and Wilmette and that area. So we have no accent.
Middle of the road, vanilla, zero accent. Right. We have no character.
Yeah, we're if you're going to a gelato place, we're the flavor, vocally that everybody just walks right past. Right? Or they think you have to add something to it, right? So, anyways, of the three people running, only Joe Biden has not had a previous financial and personal, deep, by the way, relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Not just a passing, or I met him at this party a couple times, and said hi and bye, and that was it.
and for the record, I had an accent and I lost it on purpose. And Johnny Million can testify. He saw it die in
Well,
real
you
time.
even have
They
that like
shot it
I've
in an
been all
alley.
over the country thing too, because went from Kentucky to Chicago,
Yeah, and
Vegas,
then out to
LA. So
LA.
you've been all over, lived there for a while, so you kind of have the amalgamation of like all different.
That's right.
It kind of blends
I am
into
generic
a neutral
American.
radio. Yeah,
Right. I'm the American that
Not what
David
I'm
Bowie
saying.
was afraid of. So but the thing is, like, we found out recently that RFK was very like it was weird. He showed up on the
Crazy.
flight logs, and then he was like, "Yeah, we just took a couple of family trips with him," and you're like, "What? No, not just the guy's a convicted pedophile. He was
Who doesn't
blackmailing
know
people
at this point in time that you should not bring up Jeffrey Epstein and your children in the same sentence?
Same sentence, right? And for God's sake, just family. Just say, don't say my family and I and Jeffrey Epstein. Good Lord, man! Like, again, and this goes to his ability, like this weird thing about speaking frankly and just talking like a normal person, and having the brains to craft what you're saying, to understand that people are listening with a different set of ears than yours. And he doesn't have that, as the Ashkenazi Jew Chinese thing showed. So turns out, remember that fundraiser that RFK Jr. had where Martin Sheen was going to show up and Dionne Warwick, apparently. I don't know if she was going to be palm reading there or how it works, but anyways, all these famous people. I'm kidding, she's lovely. Were supposed to be at his party, and then all of them went. I'd say I was coming to that party. Nobody even talked to me. I'm not going.
All of them fired their booking agents at the same time.
Well, they didn't. No, because their booking agents did it. They made it up. So it turns out.
I gotcha.
There was this couple that were in charge of putting this thing together. They're, RNC people, curiously. They were former delegates to the RNC. A woman named Daphne Barak and a guy named Bill Ganasty, which, I mean, I gotta, come on now. That's right up there with David Pecker from the Inquirer, and Matthew Calamari. We live in such a lame simulation. But these two people, it's so, like, who is the writer on this? It's terrible. It's like a bad King of Queens spec script. So they started their Fighting for One America PAC, and they were going to host this fundraiser for him. Well, it turns out they are the media contact for Ghislaine Maxwell. Those two people are, if you want to find out what's happening with Ghislaine Maxwell in jail, or what her statement is on some part of the trial, or her sentencing, or any of this stuff, that's who you talk to. The two people running RFK Jr.'s super PAC. What in
So are they the ones that AI'd the campaign photo of his?
Oh my God, that was so good. I totally did not. So people don't know. Yesterday, one of the videos I showed on the live stream was RFK Jr. did a Easter message, or whatever, with a lot of overlapping video and stuff. And they AI'd a picture of a crowd in front of him, and him waving to the crowd, right? Was this enormous event, very schmancy, and he's waving to them. Except everyone in the AI crowd was facing the wrong direction.
Some of them were.
I hate it when they do that.
If you zoom in, some of them were facing the right direction.
Right, there were like
but
three people twisting.
Right.
They also had weird arms bent backwards and stuff. But
there's like 18 chandeliers.
Right.
It's mic in the back and the front.
It's crap mid-journey, and then turned into a video piece. But he's waving at a crowd from the back of the room. It's so embarrassing. And it's not even the worst part. He talks about resurrection, Jesus Christ, which is fine. And good for him for doing it. I don't care. But then fire the two people who are Ghislaine Maxwell's media contact that work for you, raising money for your crazy anti-vax fringe candidacy. It's insane.
How does that come about in the first place? Like, if you're looking for somebody that you want to hire, you don't think you'll take that next step and see what their connections are and who
they're already in the book. That's the point. I think you're right. He doesn't have to look them up. He knows them already. The same way he knew her already. The same way he knew Epstein already. It's way deeper than he's even said. We're at the bottom of the hour, and Phil's going to be joining us in the next one. Boss Brian, thank you so much for jumping in today.
Can I just say, Phil, that looks absolutely incredible, my man.
You look awesome, Phil.
love
I can't wait for everybody to
that
see
looks
it.
great. Yep, that's going to be, people are going to love that, dude.
Oh, my
And
God.
good to see
Yeah.
you. Let me know if you want to hop on the show. Hal, thank you very much. John,
Absolutely.
you guys have a great day.
So Boston Brian has
Nothing, Brian.
And
Oh,
Brian
wait,
has a
Brian,
live-
before you go, could you say that you bartered for a Dodge Dart in Harvard?
I did barter for a Dodge Dart at Harvard once, and then I got in my car and had a couple beers at the bar. But
the
if you
Cracker
guys
Barrel.
want to check me out, I do a live stream tomorrow, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Blunt Politics with me. So you can check it out on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. Hal, thank you very much.
Links
Brian.
below. Yeah, that's what I was
Appreciate
trying
it,
to get in there before the end of the hour. Okay, we'll see you later. Thank you, brother. Yeah, that's what I was trying to
You're
squeeze
such a
in
good
there,
sport,
Brian.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
I
was
know,
trying
I
to.
saw it, and then Johnny made me talk Boston. Sorry.
I did.
He-
I had
he-
to.
you
I
ca-
saw where you were going with it, Hal.
He
I
pulled
knew
a
where you were going with it.
yeah. He pulled a fill on you right at the
Yep.
tail end. Yeah, just
Yep.
Hey,
he sweeps
can I
the
just say
leg.
another episode on the radio that I did not swear? I know I was a short clip.
Yeah,
a short
somebody was
segment
like,
this time,
"Oh,
but
Boston Brian, please just say fuck."
this is since the first time it happened, maybe second. Since the second time it happened, I haven't done it.
We're very proud.
Time.
Right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Phil, get in touch. I'd love to have you on so you can promote your new
Absolutely.
podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah,
All right,
will
guys.
do.
Take it easy.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it. Love you
Okay.
guys.
All right. Cheers, brother. All right. Now I'll throw Phil in the same box. Now that he's on there.
Now, Phil, is your audio source coming from your microphone or possibly a room mic? Because that sounded super roomy.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. How about that? Better?
I don't think it changed anything. I think that somehow
test.
your input might be coming from your laptop accidentally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you're sending. So, like, go to the gear on the Ninja page and make sure that the audio input is what you intend.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Better?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we hear you.
Because you
and
look
not-
awesome. I want you to sound awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go.
Like we should have a thing that based on your vocal volume turns the blue light red so people know when you're really pissed. Somebody was asking if Boston Brian's really from Boston.
Oh, come on.
That's impossible to fake. Like yeah.
Especially when
of
he
course.
is just
I think they were
genuinely
kidding.
unaware of how adorable he sounds.
But everybody in Boston's that way until they're mad, and then they sound
Until
really
they're
scary
mad.
because a Boston it's like a
Betsy
Chicago
in the
accent.
chat wants to know if Phil's at a rave. Are you at a rave? He's got a little pacifier and
Right.
those Smarties necklaces on the rubber band, you know.
Mm-hmm. My concern is this one.
Oh, that's scary. Oh, this is scary.
I made a kidney theme song. Oh, here you go, Johnny. Yeah. I built that as well. Because it took me 20 seconds. That's why. The hard part is I'm trying to do a Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide in the style of WKRP in Cincinnati. And it's having a hard time. So I'm trying to find the right prompt to make it happen. But I think we're close. I might have to do it as yacht rock. I think that's the closest thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
because a lot of those AI things depend on categories, and I don't think everybody agrees on categories.
Right. Hold on one second. Let me throw this in here, and I'll open up Phil's.
Oh, Phil, one of the people in the chat says that Phil looks diabolical, and I think that's a good thing.
Right. Hold on. I know this is in here.
Can you do like an evil villain muhaha kind of laugh?
No.
No.
All right.
Oh, yes, you can.
Let's see this one. Oh, here we go.
What am I, your dancing monkey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
We're back in 15.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Hey.
Thanks, Chicago.
All right, here we go.
It's a bit on the strong side. Let me see if I can.
Oh, there you go. Jesus.
Well, that's yeah, that's
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being charmed.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Want to thank Boston Brian for dropping in with us. He does have a live stream. Check it out tomorrow. It's on Sundays, 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's great fun, and you can find him on Twitch and YouTube. And then, of course, follow him on his socials as well. We love him dearly here. And another person we love dearly is our dear friend Philip Ittner, who's live in Kiev right now and looking rather diabolical, according to the chat room, because of his new podcast studio that he has set up there to launch a show there to get the word out, as you do. And we're very excited about that, and we'll hear more about it. But also, you were under the weather on Wednesday, I guess, and so we hope you're feeling better. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's something I ate.
I see. Well, I've seen some of the things they serve over there. That's not surprising. Yeah.
Without going into great description, it was a momentary thing.
Oh, good. All right. Understood.
Yeah, come on, tell me all about it.
No, Johnny will want to hear all about it because that's the only area he can truly commiserate.
And we share pictures of that kind of thing. We've got a whole side thread.
It's not. All right. So, anyways, reminding everybody, by the way, patreon.com/HalSparks, like and subscribe. If you hit that like right now, you'll let people know that we're live on the air. That helps boost us out. And in this, I'm doing behind the scenes stuff in front of the scenes on the live stream, because if I try to use the behind the scenes thing, it crashes. So allow me to do that. But what's the update from your end, Philip? What's the sort of the breaking news currently there? And then we'll get into what I wanted to ask you about. In our chat room, we'll have questions as well, I have no doubt.
I mean, the Russian advance on a couple of cities to the west of Avdiivka, which they recently took, after losing a lot of soldiers, has more or less ground to a halt. They're shelling all throughout the country, especially along that line of control. So Kharkiv, Zaporozhye, Dnipro, Odessa have all come under attack. Kharkiv most notably, sadly. But the actual Russian advance has kind of been halted. It looks like they've run up against the brick wall of the Ukrainian defenses, and at least for now, they're not going to be going any further. Ukraine continues to attack inside Russia. Notably their energy sector, but also their airfields. There's the latest thing today that I saw was 5 fighter bombers that were on the tarmac at Ingalls Air Force Base in the Russian Federation were hit by drones. So they're definitely still focusing on air capabilities of the Russians, I suspect, in anticipation of the F-16s and an air war. That will be a huge determinant factor in how the war progresses. We're still watching and waiting for Capitol Hill to get its act together.
Yep,
that's a big deal. There are anecdotal, so I don't want to put too much. I don't want to put too much faith in this, but I am in communication with people who go up to the front lines. I rarely go up to the front lines, but I know people who do. They go up and they deliver medical supplies or food or clothing or whatever they can. And they're making contact with soldiers who are in the trenches. And so, again, anecdotal and also, 2 people removed. But the stories that I'm hearing are that something's going on, that they are receiving shipments, they're receiving boxes of artillery rounds. And they don't know why this is. They don't question it. Obviously, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. But there are these anecdotal stories of units along the front line somehow getting artillery rounds being brought to them. Now, it could be the Europeans, the Czechs in particular, have made a major deal to procure artillery rounds outside of the European Union, which is normally something they can't do, but they made a special agreement with the Czechs to do that. It could also be certain tranches of funds that come from the Pentagon that have been kind of
already allocated, right?
Exactly, already allocated, but we're sitting around in anticipation of another aid package. But it looks like the Pentagon is moving ahead regardless. So wherever these artillery rounds are coming from, if indeed these stories are to be believed, I mean, that's a desperately needed thing to have happen, because the Russians are still trying to push. They're pushing on the next road along the path after kind of the Avdiivka area. This place called Chasiv Yar.
Yeah.
They're attacking that. I've been to Chasiv Yar. They're not, the Ukrainians are going to make the Russians pay for every single inch that they try and take, until hopefully the aid package from the United States comes, and then they can. And also the weather's changing, and the F-16s are arriving. So there's stuff that's coming, stuff that's happening, but it does seem as not the quiet before the storm, because it's not very quiet, but it does seem like something is happening, and we're on the cusp of it. So we'll have to wait and see. But certainly the Russians aren't getting any ground.
I know we didn't actually have a chance to speak about it this week, but the 800 kilometers, 800 miles inside Russia, they were able to strike. And the word at the time was it was a drone strike on this particular oil transit field. It was basically the piping system that moves the crude and the other elements, the petroleum byproducts that come out of it, are all piped different directions. And there's this basically like an intersection where all that happens. And the Ukrainians hit it with what they thought people thought at the time was a drone, because there were shots of it landing, and it looked like those cardboard drones that they were sending in. It was just significantly better. Turns out they seized a Cessna like airplane inside Russia, outfitted it with explosives and a remote control. Someone else got in, did that, and then bugged out. And then the flight of it was controlled either from inside Ukraine or from the military there or from these forces. Nobody's saying, and nor should they. But it was a Cessna loaded up with explosives that they flew and crashed into this thing, basically turning it into a drone just by attaching mechanisms to its controls.
There are all sorts of drones out there that these guys are experimenting with, and they're on the cutting edge of that technology. So turning a Cessna into a drone.
Yeah, Boston Brian's saying it was like 1,200 clicks in, so it was about 800 miles. They're
hitting deep into Russian territory,
right? And then of course the terrorist attack, the continuing fallout around that, where we all have reason to believe that anything we hear coming out of Russia in particular is baloney, and they're gonna shovel manure on top of it as high as they can. But ISIS came out, claimed it, then released footage, which I unfortunately this week got to see, that was from their soldiers' point of view as they killed people in this place, shooting them, slitting their necks. It's horrifying. These are and it was simply meant to kill and terrify. And then they threw Molotov cocktails into the place and set the place ablaze and all that kind of stuff. And the cops taking an hour to get there, all that kind of stuff. Horrible. That said, the Russians are still trying to lay it off on, like, Medvedev's blamed Macron for it this week. I mean, he's a drunk, but whatever. But he's still got the ear of Putin sometimes, I suppose. And they're still trying to blame the United States or Ukraine for it, which is like ISIS is like, what do we got to do to earn your respect?
Yeah, it's weird because, and I saw Putin put out a statement saying, there's no reason why, Islamic jihadists would attack us. That's a bold-faced lie, and he knows it. I mean, they fought a series of wars against fundamentalist
right
Islamic fighters all throughout the 90s, and they have centuries of history fighting,
and they still will. Like, there's nobody in Russia thinks that they're going to let Islam take over any of the territories they have or have a dominance in any of the territories they want to be a part of. And if they do, it'll be the sort of passive secular Islam of the the Syrian party, so that they can control the resources.
There's a long tradition of Soviet-style Islamic mosques and stuff like that, which is not very stringent. But having said that, there are, the Chechen fighters, the Chechen independence movement was backed by a lot of like the Saudis and what have you. Dagestan, a republic that is still within the Russian Federation. They have a hotbed of Islamic. There's a valley that runs through Central Asia on the border region and the former Soviet Union called the Fergana Valley. And the Fergana is one of these parts of the world where you can escape, you can hide, you can run and hide into the valley because it's not lots of nooks and crannies and lots of infrastructure there and villages that support them. And that's it's one of the world's great hotbeds for jihadist movements. And so for Putin to come and say, well, I don't understand why Islamists would,
it's absurd.
Would attack us. Well, of course they would. There's a long history of you abusing these people. So, he wants it to be Ukraine more than the reality.
Right. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Questions Johnny Million is farming from our chat room for Phil. And curiously enough, the Ukrainians have a new drone they're using that is based on the airplane that I learned to fly in.
Crazy.
Yeah. We'll be back right after this. The good old Czech light sport. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yes.
You got to Connie Kelly's question before I could ask it.
What plane are they using?
About the planes.
Yeah.
She threw in an addendum, but does he know that they're doing more of them with planes that most responsible pilots will not set foot in, but can get airborne for a short time?
Yeah, these like light sports. You can get a sports license versus a private license, which is way easier. I qualify for my sport license right now, but I'm going for my private, so I don't want to, I'm not going to check right in that and just get a piece of paper that doesn't do me anything. But it's basically this kind of guy. It's a little above an experimental. The Czech Republic makes great light sport aircraft. They're much fancier than this. They're more built out than this. But that's essentially what it was. It's the same physical structure. It's just got a better hull on it, and some of them come with what's called a CAPS system, which is a parachute in the roof.
Yeah.
So in case you're going down, you just pull that, and the wings come off and everything comes off. It explodes the wings and the tail off, and you just float to the ground like the Ace Tomato Company crate in Spies Like Us. You remember they're just eating Tostitos in the back of this thing.
Coming back in 10 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll go. Okay. So this works. Okay.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God! They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So I was pointing out during the chat, and our dear friend Connie Kelly, who's an accomplished pilot and is always on me to continue my flight education, which I am doing. You'll be happy to know. We're pointing out that the plane that I trained in Santa Monica, California, where I first started learning, was a Czech light sport. The Czechs make a great little airplane, and training schools all over the world teach people to fly in them. And they look like the one on the live stream right now. I'm putting a picture of it up on the screen. This is from an article from Only Facts, Please. Just the facts, ma'am. And it is a $90,000 sports plane, which, again, this is bare bones as it gets. and a little scary for most people, unless you're into experimental craft, which I am not, because John Denver was a family friend, and truly, genuinely, and so this particular plane, they're basically just taking over the controls of it, attaching some machinery to it, and it becomes a drone. It's not that complicated, you know, and as long as you've got the sensors to let it know, you know, and it's working, the altimeter's working, and the artificial horizon works, and the directional controls work, you could turn any plane this size into a drone. Cue the conspiracists, but that's what this is. At 90 grand to destroy a facility that's tens of millions of dollars. Right? So, anyways, I just bring that up. And meanwhile, the Polish, there's word that the Operational Command of the Polish Armed Forces scrambled both its own and allied aircraft because of a Russian missile strike on Ukrainian territory on the night of the 5th of 6th of April, last night into the night before. They warned citizens that flying aircraft may cause noise in the southeastern part of the country. Intense activity of the long-range aircraft of the Russian Federation has been observed overnight related to the launch of missile strikes on facilities located in the territory of Ukraine. This is a push that's, I guess Russia's still got this thing about Poland, and they're going to keep just scratching that, pulling at that scab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Poles, on their part, ever since the cruise missile went into Polish airspace and kind of loitered there for tens of seconds, not a full minute, but somewhere like 30, 40 seconds, something like that. Still enough to violate their airspace, and their population has responded pretty harshly.
Yeah,
the idea that Russia would violate their airspace. And then obviously also even further going back when there was some Ukrainian anti-air defense systems that were shot into the air as Russian, this is how it seems to have shaked out. The Ukrainian air defense fragments after blowing up a Russian attack fell on Polish soil. So the Poles, they're in this thing. They're involved, and they're NATO partners, and they have a long-standing history of animosity between the Poles and Moscow. And Putin has, you're right. Putin has a whole thing about Poland and wanting to cause division between the Poles and the Ukrainians because of animosity there as well, and a history of conflict there. It's tricky. It's really tricky when it comes to the Poles, because there's also the factor that, like, Polish farmers are upset that Ukrainian farm goods are being taken to European market and undercutting them. And there's a whole bunch of stuff. But by and large, Poles understand that the real enemy is in Moscow. So try as they might, Putin is, I don't think, going to be successful in driving a wedge between the two countries.
Right. Well, I don't doubt that either, but it's not for a lack of trying. Obviously
they'll try.
Yeah, that's the ongoing thing. But the other piece of news, of course, is that this is just April 6th. Russia loses over 200 pieces of equipment and almost 800 soldiers in this. We're talking about this kind of stagnant. Like the number, I think the highest number we saw in a short order, I think Texas Paul might have been even on when that number came down, was somewhere in the order of like 1,200 in one night. Troops, and these are deaths. These aren't just the general, casualties not returning to the battlefield. These are when these guys are talking about this, when you hear this piece of news, not just the big static number that's rolling. These are dead. These are, because Russia's not removing anybody from the area near Avdiivka. If they have an injured soldier, they leave them there. I can't tell you how much video I've seen, both from the Russian and Ukrainian Telegram channels, of just piles of Russian dead bodies that they have just left behind. I can't even fathom it. It's bizarre. Especially you see how people are reacting to what happened on October 7th or what's happening in Rafah, and the people, the human beings involved in the deaths that are around them. Even if they think they're worthwhile, even if they think they're fighting a good battle, the care and thought about it is at least present. This is just It's
Yeah, it's a meat
unbelievable.
grinder.
Yeah.
Well, I've been saying for a while. I think we need to stop thinking or looking at a death toll or a casualty list that's going to change Moscow's metrics, because
Right.
they don't care. What they do care about is prestige and power.
Yes. Right.
And so if they can lose territory and be seen to be losing territory, especially if Crimea can be put on the table, it's not the body count that's going to change Moscow's direction. It will be the embarrassment and the humiliation of losing on the battlefield, and then the strategic loss of territory. When the Russians realize that they have lost Odessa and they're never going to get it back, when the Russians realize that Crimea is potentially a threat from a Ukrainian actual invasion force, or being taken one way or the other by Ukrainians, that will be more cynically, and as awful as it is to say this, that will have a greater effect, in my opinion, than any single number. Now, every country has a threshold, but the capacity for the Russians to suck up the loss of lives is one thing. For them to be embarrassed, and for them to, so much of this war is about their prestige. So much of this war is about rebuilding the Russian Empire or the Soviet Empire. And if they can be dissuaded of that, and more than that, actually come to the realization that this little adventure of Putin's is going to make them lose more territory, not gain territory, going to make more enemies, not make people cower in fear of them. Look at Finland joining NATO, for example.
Yeah.
That's the thing, in my opinion, that's going to change the metrics in Moscow. The body count, as awful and as cynical as it is, they have shown that they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care how many young men die on the front lines. They do care if they're embarrassed on the global stage, which is just so hollow and awful. And it makes me sick to my stomach to know that they can be that callous towards their own people. But again, I'm on the side of Ukraine, so never let your enemy stop making its mistakes.
Right.
Sadly.
Yeah. Drywick Geek is saying exactly, Phil, because Putin is a revanchist. And hold on one second. It's that I don't know. You'd think after all this time, you'd almost have this, like, you become accustomed to it, but because we all get dulled by stuff we see all the time. But I honestly, I'm almost surprised on a personal level that I haven't. Right? Because it is I'm still surprised every time I look at this. When you and I talk twice a week, most times, and I'll I'm paying attention to this along the way, but I also do a deep review the night before you come on, so that I'm up on what not the headlines, but what else is going on, and I'm still shocked. It's that this total
they're not
disregard
answerable to their people. Their people, they have a long. I'm going to have to tread carefully here, because I don't want to make broad statements about an entire culture or people, but they have a long-standing history of whether it's the Tsar, whether it's the Politburo, or now whether it's Putin, of just the state. You are grist for the mill for the state. The state is more important than any individual, and you are to be used up and disposed of as the state sees fit. And that's why I say I think the embarrassment to the identity of being Russian and the Russian state and the great power of the Russian Empire, or what have you, if that is undercut, that will do more towards deposing Putin than any single number, which is just an awful thing to say. I mean, how awful? But they don't answer to their people; they answer to power.
Right.
Until the people have had too much.
Real quick, let's we're about to get to this, the next break, and then we'll have questions after the break. But one of the questions just came up from Brad in our chat was, he wanted to know from you or I whether we think Mike Johnson's going to bring the vote to the floor.
I certainly hope so. I think he's playing games, and that makes me angry. I think he's going to try and phrase it in terms of this whole thing of it's a loan. Well,
Right.
it's always been Lend-Lease. It's always been,
right.
Well, not always, but I mean, there's been a huge chunk of it that was Lend-Lease. At the end of the day, however Johnson is able to get the money flowing again, I don't care. It's long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
I think he realizes that being more obstructionist about Ukraine will hurt him ultimately. So we'll see. I hope so.
Yeah, agreed. And also, just for the record, and anybody who's listening in our chat or around the world, Putin is a complete moron, as is Xi Jinping. These are not smart people who are capable. And if they weren't in a system that already rewards brute force, they would have been wiped out a long time ago, or they'd be pushing a broom for a business their parents run. So, and I mean that genuinely. I mean it pejoratively as well, but I also mean it from a sense of total reality. We'll be back right after this with more Philip Ittner and more of your questions. Johnny Million, thank you so much for farming those questions and getting them up there, and we'll be back right after this. Mm-hmm. Master Recess is asking, how effed up is this world? I got news for you. Stuff like this happened all the time and forever. Just the news brings it closer to you. The 24-hour news cycle has done more to raise people's personal anxiety about things outside their reach than it has to actually change the things going on outside their reach in a lot of ways. It just has. Because this is all, I mean, Jesus Christ. Go look at what the Mongols did to Central Europe. Go look what the Muslim expansion into that eventually became the Ottoman Empire and the triggers of it, reaching up as far as into the UK and the like, and in many ways triggering the Crusades, triggering the Inquisition as a response to a lot of this stuff. And then never mind what, native tribes everywhere have done to each other over time. Humanity's always been engaged in this kind of thing. And until we reach some sort of Star Trek future, unfortunately, it's going to go on for a group of people who have come to like it. But it's not because the world is worse than it was at any given time. Jesus Christ, go read the Old Testament. It is just... And that's the Cliff Notes. The Old Testament is the Cliff Notes. Yeah.
Well, look at the history of the 20th century.
Yeah. And all of it coming out of these same fuckers. The rest of us were doing just fine. I'd like to remind everybody that the United States, unless I don't know something about my audience, and Phil and Johnny, you don't know something about your audience. None of us were like clamoring for Russia to attack Ukraine more than they already were. None of us were saying,
I was retiring.
Yeah,
I was in the middle of retiring.
Right.
I had plans.
Yeah, we weren't like, you know what the Palestinians need to do? They need to send rape squads into a music festival full of Israelis and foreigners. None of us were doing that. Not a one. So give yourself some credit about you're a part of this effed up world too, and you didn't want this.
I know I'm only on 1 day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
Probably.
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It is going to be good. You know what's going to be good? A week from tonight, Sexy Liberal Minneapolis kicking off the Sexy Liberal tour for the election year. We are coming to, if we're not coming to your town, we're coming to a town within a 3-hour drive. And God knows some of you will make it, and I love you for it. But we'll be in Minneapolis next Saturday. I don't know if there are tickets still available, but there may be. So
someone
check
in the
it
chat
out.
won some tickets from the local progressive station.
Look at that. sexyliberal.com/tour. And then, of course, we're very excited about the Chicago one in August, which may already be sold out as well. But we're going to have a special appearance by Johnny Million. And if we can... maybe we can talk Philip into taking a mental health break for himself around that time. Hopefully, maybe this will be over. Maybe not. We don't know. But who can say? It'd be lovely because it's always good to have, Phil in Chicago. That said, Nerd Halen will be playing a gig there the night before.
I sent Caleb a note to try to get one of my bands on that bill, and he said, I'll check into it. So I don't know if that's even a possibility.
Oh, I'll insist. We'll be fine.
I'll check into it is usually the, I'll call you back, Clay.
Well, I call it what I call the Hollywood confirmation. I'll definitely try and make it. That's it. Yeah. That's that. If of all things, I'll definitely try and make it. What does that mean? I've heard that so many times in my my budding career.
I don't know, but either Convoy or Mars, Venus, Moon would be honored to open for you.
I'm for it. I am for it. So I'm going to pull strings and push buttons. So because I think that would be lovely. I think you might just be intimidated by your guitar stylings.
Oh, I don't know about that. He's so good.
He's very good.
Caleb is so good.
He's very good. He's very good. But you have versatility and in your own way and a personal style. It's a thing. It is a thing. So, all right. Anyways, back to where we were. The ongoing back and forth. We were talking a little bit about, and we'll get to the questions as soon as I did. But we were talking a little bit about where are these shells coming from? Where is this ammunition coming from? The Dutch Minister of Defense said, quote, we're doing everything we can to deliver ammunition to Ukraine. Katja Ollengren, which is a very Dutch sounding name, said that everything possible is being done to deliver ammunition to Ukraine as soon as possible. She said in an interview with Ukrinform, a correspondent in The Hague. This war in Ukraine is fighting is about freedom, democracy, rule of law, and standing against illegal aggression. And that is why we are also committed to support Ukraine. And that is why we're doing everything we can to get the ammunition there, especially the 155 millimeter rounds, as soon as we can. We're working very hard to this end. She noted that the Netherlands is very well aware of the difficult situation on the front, that the military is seeing an ammunition shortage, but we will get there. And we also understand the importance of air defense since Russia has been able to employ large numbers of missiles, drones, and aerial bombs from which Ukraine has to protect its cities, citizens, and critical infrastructure. They're on this. That's I don't know if that's and I think there was somebody. We'll get to the questions. I will dive into something bigger, but I think that's a good sign. That might be that we are. I know Lincoln's coordinating.
It is a good sign.
Yeah.
It is a good sign. I have some minor concerns in that I am also starting to hear here in Europe and for European partners that we can't trust the Americans anymore. We don't know if they're worthwhile allies, which is not good.
Right.
Of course, Europe should be responsible for its own defense, the European Union and the allied nations on the continent. But I'm a firm believer in the Transatlantic alliance. I think it's best when we work together, Europeans and Americans. So to have them expressing this idea of we've got to go it alone because we don't trust we can't rely on our partners in Washington and in America. That's not good. That's not good. I mean, I want help for Ukraine, and if the Europeans step up because America is faltering, that's good for Ukraine. But in the longer run, the medium to longer run, it's bad for America for us to not be in a strong alliance with Europe. It's the Transatlantic alliance it builds peace. It for better or worse. And I know people will argue with me about that, but you look at the history of Europe and look at the history of America being pulled into conflict on the European continent because of the conflict between nation states in Europe.
Right.
Since the creation of NATO, since the creation of the European Union, since the creation of these various alliances, there's less war, not more.
Right.
I know it doesn't seem like that sometimes, but this war is the first big war we've had on the continent, even surpassing Yugoslavia.
Right.
And America should be assisting our European allies because we're better as friends than we are as isolated power brokers.
Agreed. So let's grab a question, Johnny. Who do we have up first?
Yeah, I've got a question here from Ever Anthony. Could you ask Phil if he thinks that Ukraine is rewriting war manuals by their ingenuity?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Obviously with the drone war, but also in terms of information warfare, also in terms of just the sheer ingenuity of what they're, and all of these things coming together, by the way, with AI, with drones, with information warfare, with all of these things being one way, this new way of fighting war. They're absolutely 100% rewriting military doctrine. And there are, I am sure, it's not just a question, it's an absolute assurity that, militaries around the world are closely watching what happens here, because you better believe the next time there's a war anywhere in the world, drones are going to be a huge part of it. AI is going to be a part of it. Information warfare and the online war, that's going to be a huge part of it. So yes, that's a long answer for a short answer. But in short, yes, they're changing military doctrine.
Gotcha.
Sweet. Okay, so next question from Ed's 3D Tech. Does Russia have any planes left?
Yeah, they do. They're keeping their 5th generation fighters away from Ukraine, which is something that's not gone unnoticed. But look, Russia is still, I say still a massive military power. It's been hacked to shreds, but it's still there, and they still have planes, and we still get attacked. And they're developing new weaponry. Their glide bombs are absolutely devastating. They're awful, but they still have assets. They still have air assets. It will be interesting to see what happens when the F-16 gets here, because if we can get air superiority, this is done. And I still don't understand why the Russian military doctrine is just so reliant on artillery and conscripts, masses of men and artillery. It just beggars belief why they don't, why they don't recognize the importance of air superiority. But they don't. That's not how they fight wars.
And to part of the question as well, up on the screen right now, I have an aerial picture. It's from a satellite picture of a Russian helicopter that its landing space is on top of a painting of an Su-30. With the idea is that they paint planes on the ground, to make it look like they have more planes than they do, and also to bait the Ukrainians, I guess, into trying to bomb them. But then this guy landed his helicopter on it as that's the landing spot. It's a painting, so it's from the air, it looks like a helicopter piggybacking a jet, which doesn't work technically from a physics standpoint. But that's what they're kind of left up to. So yeah. Anyways, let's grab another question.
Sheer sign of desperation, that whole tactic.
Exactly.
Painting aircraft on the tarmac. It's ridiculous.
I've got a question, a short one from Nick Rich. Will Phil's new On the Edge podcast be on YouTube as a live stream?
I don't know as I'm going to be streaming, but I will be putting out, my intention, at least, is to do one podcast a week with an interview subject, and then one podcast a week with a kind of weekly summation of things that strike my interest and things that I want to kind of explain or go into greater detail and depth. I'm toying with the idea of a third day with streaming, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Sure. One of the things you can do is take your interviews once they're done and post them to stream, and then you can live chat along with the interview as a secondary thing. So, I can't do that because of the weird thing that, way I do my thing, but it definitely works for a lot of people, and it's a great way to post an interview. I think Midas does it on some of their interviews as well. So you can talk to the chat while the interview is going on in relation to what they're seeing. It's pretty great. So let's see. Yeah, we got time for another one before the break.
Sure thing. Another one from Ed's 3D Tech. Can you ask Philip if Russia is now using tanks from the 1950s?
We occasionally get these reports of them pulling out really old tanks and pulling them out of mothball, or even monuments and stuff like that. I mean, I think it is happening to a certain degree, but let's not overplay it. They've got a huge military industry that is churning out, tanks on the daily. So yes, we've heard stories of that. I think it's a little overblown. I think people like that story, so they fixate on it. But there's still a plenty modern, or at least reasonably modern, armor that the Russians can bring to bear. So we shouldn't be reading into too much of them pulling.
But you're completely forgiven if you start humming the Sanford Son theme when you see some of their trucks.
Oh well.
Yeah. So let's take a break, and then we'll answer some on the other side and have our little happy ending, because I have a piece for that. And also, this before we get to that, I don't want it to be part of the happy ending because it's such a thing. But the current loss of humans by the Russians in China, in Chechens and every conscript they can dig up is 446,690 human beings the Russians have thrown into a meat grinder and lost to take territory that measures slightly larger than territory they already had. 347 aircraft, 325 helicopters, and of course the big one that stands up, 26 warships and boats and one submarine, which they lost to a country that has no navy. This is the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll be back right after this.
Boy, time flies.
It does. Yeah, I'm looking at the... like the volume of drones. And then Russia voted with North Korea for the first time. They vetoed a vote in the UN that was supposed to sanction North Korea. Oh, it's a little dark for the... It looks like we're being haunted by Patron.
Aww.
Yeah. There he is.
There's Patron.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Lady Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Mike there.
Mm-hmm. In case you have an open stand-up
Zelensky over there.
Okay.
And there's Taras. Good old Taras Shevchenko.
Russian Gothic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainian Gothic. Little Bulova there.
Okay, and I think
I'm probably totally washed out if I leave it at that iris.
Yes,
I will.
It looks very psychedelic.
All right.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! And you were holding up Patron for us, and you were holding up, showing us around
Patron,
the new studio.
Shevchenko. I've got a Vladimir Zelensky bust back there.
Mm-hmm.
We might alter a few of that, but yeah.
Right. There's a real quick. I don't know. Besides Johnny Million, you're going to record right after this today. You're doing.
Yeah. Mars, Venus, Moon is recording a couple of songs.
Right. Excellent. And I have besides my brand new jingles that I'm.
They're a little quiet.
Sorry, it's very sad. Hold on. There you go. How about that? Or this one.
You're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide, and we're glad you're along for the ride.
Okay, that's and then yeah. So
Did you put "I love it loud" in the description?
No, I just I think that was aggressive rock.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Yeah, so I wrote the lyrics out, and then I just asked it to do it in a bunch of different styles, and that was all made by AI. Each one of those took about, I guess, 25 seconds, which is crazy. So again, which is perfect for writing jingles and stuff. I have no need for it in writing, the songs that I would want from myself. But this is, if you're writing something for a commercial, anybody who did music for commercials is kind of boned, I think, from now on. Really, that job is gone. But that said, the other thing is that Apple has the story about how Apple ditched their car. They're not doing the car anymore. There was gonna be an Apple car. Well, now they're talking about Apple robots instead, because effectively what an automated car, what everybody was looking for was a robot that just is on the street. And they're like, nope, we're gonna do one for your house. So there's a variant, different designs that they've been testing out. And
that one's got a Swiffer, which they notoriously don't clean anything. So if you've got a robot with a Swiffer, that could be like just adding filth to your house.
OpenAI has its own version of one that is based on that can talk to you and understand regular language. This is going to happen so fast. Let me tell you. Yeah. It was already on a track. It was already working, like moving quicker than people thought. It is on a lightning fast, because you can test all these robots, all the mechanisms, all their circuitry, all their programming and their sensors in virtual environments now. NVIDIA has a virtual robot testing environment where they design a house with furniture in it and kids running around and a cat that's unpredictable and that kind of stuff. And they let it practice in the house until it does no damage and does only good. And then they can put it in the machine part of it and it just works because the physics are the same. Hey, don't get me wrong. I was doing this thing. Johnny froze. Did you do that on purpose when you were trying?
No, but that was pretty convincing.
It was pretty convincing. I have to say,
Skynet's already paying attention to you, Johnny.
They are. Yeah, you're gonna make them angry, and then where we're gonna be, Johnny Million. I am actually, I'm a big fan of the idea of robots, and I also know that it's going to be, we're closer to robots being in your home on the regular and being very normal, just like your phone, than we were to the introduction of the cell phone. That was, never mind that the first one was in like the 70s, but the ubiquity of them being in the late 90s and then the smartphone in the early 2000s, that changed the entire game. We're closer to robots walking around everywhere than we are to that. And that's going to be a game changer as well. Talk about drone wars and worries about hacking.
I'm just looking forward to feeling like I've got more dexterity than anybody. Because I've seen those robots fall over, and I'm like, all right, I think I can tip you over. I think I got this.
Well, that's the thing is they got a lot of the home robots are all going to be, fairly easily breakable, because if they're not, people will be afraid of them. Until the first one is built strong enough to carry somebody out of a fire, and then they're like, I want the fire carrying one, and like that's how you get a Terminator, dummy. Because if they're strong enough to lift you, they're strong enough to throw you. So, anyways, I'm very excited about the idea, largely because they have been partnering. Apple's been partnering with Disney, and those little robots, the autonomous robots, have been walking around the Star Wars area at Disneyland and Disney
the Star
World.
Wars experience.
Yeah, they're these little, they look like Wall-E ones, but with feet, and they walk with duck feet. They can walk around autonomously. They don't need a handler like somebody running a remote control. The only reason they have a handler is so idiots won't kick them, basically. But they're getting so much practice with it that it is just going to become the norm. You'll bring this thing in, it will scan the house.
It's Westworld.
Yeah. Oh, we're so close. And here's the thing: Westworld will never happen because robots can't get bored or annoyed. It's not possible. They have infinite patience because they are not mortal. So, anyways, that's my and your iPhone Siri's going to get a huge, crazy update this year. Huge, very AI, very conversational. It's going to be crazy. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the panic stories about it that will accompany it, because I know,
Oh yeah.
So, all right, back to our questions. And reminding everybody that
I've got
on the
one.
edge
I don't know exactly
coming,
how to pronounce this name. Okay. It's BECID Great. Becid Great? BECID Great. Is there a possibility that individual Russian troops would help Ukraine win because they want the war to be over?
Well, they've had...
Yeah. We've had, a variation of that is we have Russian volunteers that are fighting inside the Russian Federation, but are actually Russian citizens. Are they? They have been fighting here as well internally within Ukraine. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of people that don't like Vladimir Putin, and there are Russians willing to fight for it. So yeah, absolutely.
By the way, that was Becky the Great. I just that's
go.
me not
The
being
Great.
able to. I'm really bad with license plates too.
It is true. Yeah. All right. Let's grab another one. Let's just try to burn through as many.
I've got
as we
one
can,
from Damon Shank. This is more of a comment. I would like Phil to know that we appreciate listening to history in real time. He's such a great guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's another person who hasn't met you in real life. Got one from got one from Mary P. I like this one. What has happened to the women who protested against Putin by putting green dye in the ballot boxes?
I don't know what happened to those particular women, but there are stories and updates of people, not just women, but there's a woman in St. Petersburg that I follow closely. Her case, she's the woman that went into supermarkets and put, like, instead of price numbers, they were factual information about, like, the percentage of people that were killed or how many people died this day or that day, or
right.
And she is getting railroaded 100%. They don't. People are continuing to flee Russia as well because you can't say anything even remotely critical of the war. So
yeah,
it's not going well for them.
It's the kind of freedom that MAGA is hoping for over here. That's what they're looking for. The freedom of speech that you get in Russia and the gun rights. I mean, both of them. What's not to like for maggots? Yeah. So again, Johnny, what do we got? Are we good?
This is the last one I have here. Seattle Susie Q asks ask Phil if the events in the Middle East, especially Iran threats, will have any effect on the Ukraine-Russian war.
Well, I mean, Iran, because they've been giving their drones to Russia to use here, I could easily see them moving those to, if they get into an open conflict with Israel, that the Iranians might divert that from this war to that war.
Right.
Look, the whole conflict in the Middle East has been a major drawing focus away from this war. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think that is by design. People are not paying attention to this war. The press corps has almost completely abandoned this place, except with a couple of exceptions. They fly in, they do a couple of weeks, then they leave. Whereas when the war began, for the bulk of this war, there have been permanent presence here. The war in the Middle East is absolutely drawing away focus from this war, and it frustrates me no end because and I know that people will get upset when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. People have been fighting over that little strip of land in the Middle East ever since Abrahamic religion, probably before. That is, you want to talk about forever war, that's a forever war. Not that it should be dismissed or ignored, but that is a forever. This war here in Ukraine, this is a winnable war, and it will change the course of European and by extension global history. And if we decide to back the Ukrainians, it will be a win for the side of good, because this country wants to build liberal democracy, and to have as powerful a country as this potentially can be on the side of liberal democracy, that would be a good thing, aside from the fact that this should be an independent nation with its own sovereign cause and ability to determine its own path. The Middle East war, that's just rinse and repeat. This could be concluded. We need
Agreed. And when people talk about, we don't want to be involved in these quote forever wars, what they're talking about is either they're talking about Israel and Palestine, and what they're talking about is, from a Trump point of view, wipe out the Palestinians and start from scratch. That's what they're talking about. The forever war conversation point happened around the Iraq war, and it's been spiraling because of the Afghanistan war. And what they mean is eliminate those people. Listen to what Trump is saying. It's exactly what he's talking about. End it. Finish it. wipe them out.
A final solution.
That's what he means. Yes, he's talking about a final solution to the forever war. And when you hear a maggot talking about forever wars, Laura Loomer, any of these, what they mean is stop supporting Israel and stop giving food to Palestinians. Let them kill each other and let it be over with. That's what they mean. I'm not kidding. It's code. It's a whistle. So anyways, thank you so much, Philip Ittner. Thanks, Chicago. Thanks, Johnny Million. Go have a great session, Johnny Million.
Thank
Phil, we look forward to the
it's coming soon.
Yep.
Coming soon.
The podcast, we will blow it up as best we can around here. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you guys next week. In Minneapolis. I'll be doing the show from Minneapolis. Look at that.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right, I gotta fly. I love you guys.
Yeah. Time for me
See you,
to
Johnny.
fly.
Take care.
Okay. All right. I'll let you guys go. Cheers. Thanks so much. All right.
Saving another bout of food poisoning, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. See you soon. All right. Be safe. And off we go. And chat room. It's just the two of us. Hi, everybody. So let's see. I should add one more of these things while I'm in here with you guys. We're just hanging around. It's nice when the show switches off and everybody's there. We go. I don't have to worry about the tech aspects of it. It's like a big chunk of my brain comes flooding back, and I'm able to use it again because I'm not managing the tech while it happens live. There's a couple of stories we didn't get to touch on, so I'll present them to you as they are, and see if we can get through these guys as best we can, and see if we can, because some of them I got to show you, but I didn't get to actually. Where are we? Yeah. Okay. So many of you don't know, or maybe you do know, I don't know, that in December there was a phone call between Biden and Netanyahu where Biden hung up on him. And they were getting to the end of the rope. And he's definitely, Biden's over a barrel in terms of support of Israel as a whole versus supporting Netanyahu in the same way that countries all over the world post 9/11 wanted to support us but didn't support George Bush. Remember that shit? Right. So we were all doing this, freedom fries bullshit. And this is, here you go, boink. This will be this one. This is from, according to Axios, from inside the phone call that Biden had. He goes, President Biden laid out an ultimatum to Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in their call on Thursday. If Israel doesn't change course in Gaza, we won't be able to support you, he said, according to 3 sources with knowledge of the call. Why it matters. Biden didn't specify what a loss of U.S. support would entail. He didn't mention the possibility of stopping weapons shipments to Israel, the sources said, but it was the president's toughest call with Netanyahu since the October 7th attacks, both in tone and substance. I disagree. I think the one where he hung up on him, which led to the ceasefire we had in the first place, that was the follow-on from that. That's what it resulted in. It resulted in Netanyahu beginning to take steps he had opposed before. Good. Behind the scenes, many of the most senior members of the Biden administrations were on the 30-minute call, including Kamala Harris, Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan. According to sources, Biden spoke to Netanyahu about the Israeli strike earlier this week that killed 7 humanitarian workers with World Central Kitchen and said it will exacerbate the already dire humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Now, since that happened, and Jose Andre came out and said, he was angry because they targeted the vehicle and all that kind of stuff. And initially, it just simply looked like IDF was targeting aid trucks. We now know there were armed men on top of the trucks. We also now know that in the transit of that aid to someplace else, those trucks went someplace, presumably to drop off food or what have you, with the aid workers that were there, and then was going someplace else. And there's a route the IDF gives aid trucks that they're allowed to take, and this one had veered off with gunmen on it. One of the gunmen either saw IDF troops or something, fired upon them, and that's what started the targeting. The part that the IDF people are being removed for, specifically, by the way, is that after the initial strike on that convoy, some of the people fled to other vehicles, and they struck those vehicles as well, which was the thing that was against IDF policy. Unless you could see that these people are armed specifically, you don't do it. But they were reacting as they'd been in war, whatever. It seems more like a fog of war thing at this point. But that's true. Yeah, this is how it's shaken out since then. The initial report was just like they saw an aid truck with like a, with a food mark on the side of it, just decided to screw the Palestinians and starve them and blew it up. So that isn't the case. And they tried to contact between when they struck. I'd love to have Peter Zion on as a guest, Tim. You guys know that he was one of the few people I could find on the internet that was agreeing with me about China's economy and population before everybody else. Now it's like everybody knows it. Remember when I was telling you all this shit? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the World Central Kitchen, which is a great organization, lovely. Apparently the Israelis tried to contact them. Their security people did not answer because they have people. They have security people that are watching these convoys as they come in. And so they're supposed to be in coordination. Are these you guys? Are these trucks you? Are these your people? And nobody answered. And so this followed on to that. It was not as simple as I want them to starve. Boom. That was it. Yeah. WCK had a gun, supposedly. Well, that's the thing, Wes. Nobody could divide them. There were two convoys together. That's one convoy. It's an important distinction without a difference. The point is, this is not as cut and dry as like the IDF were just like, let's starve some Palestinians and kill some people who are there to help. It doesn't work like that. And the idea that it does is just gross. I'm just telling you the details that have come out, Gregory. If you can justify. All right. Well, I guess essentially, are you saying that the soldiers that did it meant specifically to starve people and that they should be put to death? I think that would be a war crime. A direct attack on food just for the sake of stopping the food is a war crime. So those people should probably die if that's the case. And if you want to make that argument, that's fine. But you have to take in all the details. Just say it's a mess. And by the way, the issue with the justification of it comes in when these guys continue to fire on people who were fleeing, and the people who were fleeing that left it were not the armed people. They got into two vehicles and were leaving, and they fired on that vehicle. That would be it. Okay, it was a war crime. It is okay. No, it isn't, Wes. It's a war crime to hide behind to use food convoys for military attacks. It's a war crime to hide behind civilians. This is just war. It's not good. It's a terrible thing that happened. But you can understand a terrible thing happening and go, okay, is this what Jews are like? Is that where we're going with this? Is that the argument now from that crowd? The details of what happened matter. Starving people is a war crime. Nobody is starving people in there. As a matter of fact, there was complaints. There are complaints from, I watched a video from like these Ayn Rand Institute people. They are fucking livid that food is even getting in there. There are more aid trucks coming since August than before. There's more food going in since last August, partly because of us and because of other countries, but there's a volume of it. Yes, we are talking about Israel in this particular instance. So, WCK, which is one of the main players that delivered food to people in the enclave, suspended its operation in Gaza after the strike. Now, here's the other thing. The WCK is in a very difficult position because food that is being brought in, even when it goes on the proper routes, even the food that's, they know where it's going, and they know how it's going to, get there, and they know where the people are, all that stuff. Yeah. Faza, Refugee International found direct evidence Israel is inhibiting aid. They're inhibiting all trucks going in, Brian. They have to. The point is, okay, hold on. There are, obviously we're not going to have a calm and balanced conversation about this because I don't know if you're aware of this, don't want innocent people to starve. But I also don't want weapons to be shipped in food trucks and the like and have it used to kill people and extend the reach of Hamas. And are we at least good on that? This is good. I mean, it's important to have this conversation. Do we agree at least on that? That if you didn't check the trucks or the stuff that are going through, weapons would get in. We understand that is a reality. No, I'm just I'm checking this because we have to have some baselines in what we're talking about. Otherwise, what happens is you get like detail ambush without the conversation actually talking about, actually what's going on. Yep. Don't have an answer. Okay, that's all right. You don't have to have an answer. That's the other thing. You don't have to have an opinion about it. You can just kind of absorb it and think about it, come to a decision later, because I got news for you. How you and I feel about it isn't going to affect it directly. It's going to affect our vote, and this is a long game. Yeah, the TYT crowd will jump in, and they'll go on buzzwords and the like. Israel's version of this is correct, right? No, not necessarily. No. The details are coming from both. Hold on. The UN, because I wasn't going to pull these up in this because it's a side conversation. But it was on the Telegram channels. You could see them. You can see the vehicles. Right? You could. I mean, it's not whether the Israeli said it or not. There's a gun. There's a picture of a gunman firing from the top of one of the trucks. That's not the. And again, West is saying they were part of that. They were part of the secondary convoy, but they're all riding together. That's a distinction without a difference in this particular instance, right? I'll check you for the first time today. I'm considering RFK Jr. Of course he is. Because of course he is. Anything but corruption. You're never going to get anything but corruption from Joe Biden. Okay, so the infrastructure bill is corruption. The jobs, that's corruption. The rising wages, that's corruption. The forgiveness of student loans, that's corruption. That this is a maggot talking point. That's what that is. Okay. Hassan is in need of convincing? You mean Hamas, Abi? Yeah. So, there we go. Hold on one second. Yeah. Yeah. He's more than a bit. Agree with you. I'm just being a messenger. Yeah, sure. No, I understand that. No, TYT is not saying. Here's the thing. The important thing is that we, I think here, all are on, and maybe this is the test too, is like, I'm for a two-state solution. I think if you have a two-state solution, it's more than likely going to be run by the Palestinian Authority or a body like that than Hamas. If Hamas is a part of the equation, you're not going to have a two-state solution because they don't want one on a pathological, violent level. They are not going to allow it. We'll get to Bibi Netanyahu in a second. But we agree on that part, right? Is that as a generalized understood? Yeah. Why would their security fire at the IDF? Because they're not security, Boston Brian. They're not this. They're hiring Hamas and IS people as security. They're not outsiders. They're not bringing in American soldiers, UN peacekeepers, or whatever. The people riding on these trucks with guns are Hamas. That's why. That's the back and forth. There's a lot of reasons. So, but anyways, but again, I digress. Let's get there for a second. Israel is not for a two-state solution. It's been said by everyone of their leaders. Not anymore. Since October 7th, that's been the question because the Palestinians in Gaza voted for this would be a great conversation. I know it's after show, but Brian, do you want to jump in? Do you want to come back on? Hold on. Let me see if I can. I don't know if you have time. Let's see real quick. See if I can get my little window back open again, and we can discuss it because you know a lot about it and you care a lot about it, and that's important. And we can discuss this part of it, and I think it's from a perspectives idea. I think we're both in a situation where we both get. If you feel like it, you don't have to, but So there is I reopened the room. If you feel like popping back in, let me know. Be totally cool. But if you can't, I understand. But the essence of this, again, I'm for a two-state solution. I think when you have a two-state solution, you're going to have a different leadership in Israel than the Netanyahu crowd. And you're definitely not going to, Hamas isn't going to be a part of this. Right? These are the two, these two groups are particular problems in the existence of a two-state solution at any point in the future. Right? So That's a very important distinction. Okay, so if it's going to be a two-state solution, it will be the Palestinian Authority and a more broad coalition within the Israeli government, right? And again, there for the record, there was a ceasefire. There he is. Excellent. Thanks, brother. Thanks for jumping back in. I don't mean to put you on the spot or whatever, but it's a worthwhile conversation. Here we go. And I'll bring you in.
Sorry, my hat's downstairs.
It's okay. Did I make you run back up the steps?
Yeah.
Hold on. And I got to shut off all these things and turn off these guys. I got so many people in here, and none of them are you. Hold on a second. You'll be in here for a second, and then I'll be able to put your name up on there. I don't dare do it in the background because it will crash the damn thing.
I'll be Philip. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, that's good. Look at you, almost in black and white. You'll center in a second, but we gotta adjust your camera at some point.
Sorry.
No, not at all.
Kind of flew back up, yeah.
So thanks for coming back in, because there's so many moving parts in this. Everybody fixes, I think, what happens in this, and probably why it doesn't move forward. It's because everybody fixates on different parts of the conflict, right? Because there's so much news coming. You can go down a news rabbit hole on almost every singular secondary part of it and miss lots of other parts. So there might be gaps in my knowledge and gaps in your knowledge, and they might overlap, and they might be able, to support the other part of it, right? If that makes sense. So anyways, this is, I think you and I are both for a two-state solution. I think that we could start there as a baseline. Yes.
Correct.
Right. And
I think the problem is getting into it. What we want and what we're saying is not what Israel wants and what Israel is saying.
Right.
I mean, there's many examples out there that you can find, from the UK ambassador to the defense minister to Bibi Netanyahu himself, basically straight up ruling out a two-state solution.
Sure.
Which it just goes against what we're arguing. So it's like, I can't find myself supporting that, especially when the Israeli people themselves are. I mean, you could look at the Haaretz poll right after October 7th, where around 86% of Israelis laid blame at the feet of Bibi Netanyahu for October 7th and the failures of their security system and their military complex, for lack of a better term, to stop what was going on when they had the battle plans. But regardless, after all that, I mean, my issue is with, I mean, the way that Chef Andres put it, these security forces were hired and had been working for the World Central Kitchen for years. They had relationship with these people, and they were security paid for by the World Central Kitchen. I've never heard that the World Central Kitchen is hiring Hamas fighters as security.
Well, that was the issue. That was the UNRWA issue as well. UNRWA was, full of people who were either Hamas sympathizers or IS sympathizers, and there were all the stories of like the teachers in the UNRWA schools, both in the West Bank and in Gaza specifically, cheerleading October 7th and teaching, jihadi doctrine to the kids. And I mean, there's a myriad of videos you can watch online of like little kids talking about how they're going to kill Jews and all that kind of stuff. And the like the 15-year-old who shot like 3 Jewish women in a car or whatever, they wear a medal around their neck with his face on it, and that kind of stuff. And it's one thing if that happens. You can understand that happening in